People of God, y'all doing all right? It's me. I'm doing all right as well. Got to clear the throat. Something going on in there. Need some water, probably. I've been drinking water. Pretty good, though. Today, I'm going to talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it is a subject matter that has caused a big ripple in the United States. And the funny thing about this whole subject of DEI is that it has it divided us based off of race. And I've told you all this over and over again that as it pertains to America, everything is about color. Everything is about race. And I can prove it by walking outside to a certain neighborhood and looking around and seeing their responses. Everything it is about race. So this thing with DEI and the disbanding of it should not be a surprise to any of us. But do we even need it today? What's the deal with it? And why are we crying about it? Well, it has a lot to do with what I may call, for white people, a Head Start program. See you in 60. You're good. Don't stop it. Bass.
It's the show that will get you thinking, and where the topics are hot. Feel free to comment whether we agree or not, 'cause he's got something to say.
Sirwalterj.
He's got something to say. Sirwalterj.
Report live 7 days a week, always on time, but his time is not free. Sirwalterj, always on fleek. Latest trending topics, how you jumping out your seat.
He's got something to say.
Come on in. The water's fine. Hello, everybody. Sirwalterj Jones Show. I'm here. It is the Midday Connection. David. Hi, everybody. Come on in. Water's fine. Y'all doing all right? It's so good to see y'all. It was wonderful to see y'all in the upper room. No, we were in the Patreon this morning around 8 o'clock, y'all. We were in the piano room. We were in there. The bunkers were in there, and we were blessing one another in song, all right? And we'll be back there tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock on Patreon in the piano room, singing the songs of Zion for healing and grace in your homes. It's good to see all of you. I see you here. We want to talk about DEI and the effects it's having on America. This show is not about Donald Trump. No, and DEI is not about him whatsoever. And the fact that what he and his people are doing with DEI should not surprise any of us because, as I often say, that elections have consequences. And here's the consequence, and you can't be mad at him. He told you what he was going to do. He told you what he's going to do day one. So really, you all are mad at the wrong person. You're mad at the wrong person. I want to talk about the history behind this DEI and why it is important, why it was important, and should it be phased out, or should we continue to fight for it? Jerry Whittington is an African-American woman back in the 1960s who worked for President Lyndon Baines Johnson. And I want to take us to Wikipedia so that I can show you all how white people enrolled in the Head Start program. I remember being in Head Start. And it was in Head Start where I learned ZYXWBUTSIQPONMLKJIHDFEDCBA. I learned the alphabet backwards in Head Start. I've learned a lot of valuable lessons in Head Start. And Head Start prepared me for life, for the rest of my life. You see, white people got pushed and they enrolled early into a Head Start program. And so this Head Start is now benefiting the posterities of those of old for back since the America, was running from Great Britain to establish its own secured domestic tranquility, provide for the commonsensical selves. You understand? And so the very thing that they ran from is the very thing that they are saying to others, hey, we're in now. Jerry Whittington here, 1931, was the personal executive secretary for Lyndon Baines Johnson, the first African-American secretary in the White House. This was a big deal. And Johnson was famous for working long hours and insisting that his assistants worked long hours as well. So when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, Johnson became president. He requested a new slate of secretaries, and he saw her working in the government office and requested that his assistant, Jack Valenti, get her on the phone. And Johnson called her and announced, one evening and requested that she come in that night for an interview. All right. I'm a historian, and I actually have that recording of his call.
This is Whittington.
Just a minute. What are you?
Hello?
What are you?
I'm at home. Who's this?
This is the president.
Oh.
What are you doing?
Oh, I think someone's playing with me.
No, I won't talk to you about our work, honey. What are you, at home?
Oh, yes, I am.
Are you busy?
No, I'm not.
Can you come down here immediately?
Oh, I'll be glad to.
Come down. I've got Jack Valenti here, and we want to talk to you about a little reassignment.
We want to talk to you about a little reassignment. So according to the audio tape of his phone call, Whittington at first thought that the call was a joke, but came to believe that it really was the president on the line. All right, now, having a black woman in the White House was very unusual in the 1960s, you all. Johnson wanted to advertise the fact that he had hired a black woman, but chose not to call a news conference. And a lot of that had to do with the racist segregationists from the South who were part of his people, his party. The Democratic Party, you all understand, is the Republican Party of today. So the Democratic Party during Johnson's time were the ones who gave us Jim Crow and the Ku Klux Klan and gave us these segregations and all that stuff. That was the Democratic Party at that time. So they were racist and segregationists. All right, so instead he arranged for her to go on What's My Line, the game show, and you can find that game show on YouTube as well. So she appeared on a particular episode, and it talks about the mystery guests and what have you. I'm going to go further down here. She appeared in Jet, and so she was the first person to learn that Justice Thurgood Marshall had been nominated by President Johnson to the Supreme Court. It was a great honor. He told her first. Minutes before LBJ made the official announcement, he took his nominee down to her office and said, "Here's the next Supreme Court justice." So she told friends that she thanked the president for making the choice of the first black court justice. And then notice the irony here is that after suffering a stroke at age 38, she died of cancer at 61 in Washington, D.C. in 1993 on the same day that Justice Thurgood Marshall had passed as well. And I think most of you remember that day, 1993. I'll never forget it. Quite a few people, even in gospel music, we found out had died that particular year. They've reversed the meaning just like ACH and Obamacare. They think D.E.I. means that black women's getting ahead. Civil rights is also a dog whistle for the invert. Yeah, it is. All right. So Head Start program. White people enrolled in the Head Start program. Now, some of y'all may be misunderstanding when I say Head Start. I'm not talking about the Head Start I'm not talking about school. I'm not talking about education. I'm saying Head Start in life. How many of y'all caught it when I said that? Yes. Yes, he called her honey. That's the first thing that I noticed. He called her honey. That's the way, you can't talk that way today. And then what he did was he gave a speech at Howard University for the graduates, and here you will see the changing of the guards because in walked the Martin Luther King pushed for the civil rights bill, which was signed, and then 64, and then after that he pushed for the voting rights, which was signed, and so many things that LBJ did on behalf of D.E.I. We just didn't call it that then. We call it now, but it's what's in the name?
You do not take a person who for years has been hobbled by chains and liberate him, bringing up to the starting line of a race, and then say, you are free to compete with all the others, and still justly believe that you have been completely fair. Thus, it is not enough just to open the gates of opportunity. All our citizens must have the ability to walk through those gates. And this is the next and the more profound stage of the battle for civil rights. We seek not just freedom, but opportunity. We seek not just legal equity, but human ability. Not just equality as a right and a theory, but equality as a fact and equality as a result.
Equality as a fact and equality as a result. It was a tough thing for him to do, being a Democrat with many of his party and his friends from the South being racist the way they were. How he was able to do that took the providential plan of God for it to happen. And we thank God for LBJ. He may not have been the most popular president that we've seen. As a matter of fact, he was hated among a lot of people, just like Martin Luther King was hated. At the time of this recording, they have released all of the Freedom Act of JFK's assassination, Robert Kennedy's assassination, and MLK's assassination. The Trump administration was able to release a lot of those documents, and I read some of them. Thank you to Oscar Sims. And you can see the vitriol and the hatred and the examination of one guy. It's something else. So you all you all now are able to read a lot of that stuff that was what do you call it when you black out the lines? The word is in my head. The reason why they couldn't release a lot of that stuff is because of national security. And so when you read it, you'll see, yeah, I can see there's some national security issues there, but it really wasn't anything that could have gotten us in trouble with other nations. It really was silliness. I think a lot of that was a cover. Is it didacting? What's the word I'm looking for, you all? So here's another one. This is Michael Sony's video here. I like to hear Caucasians talk about this stuff because, redacted. Thank you. I see you all. I didn't see you earlier. Here.
The 400 wealthiest white people in this country have the same cumulative amount of wealth as all 41 million black people in this country combined. Let me restate, so you know that I did not misstate. 400 people, the same cumulative amount of wealth as all 41 million black folks combined, right? And the wealthiest 1,000 people, the same amount, 1,000 white people, the same amount of cumulative wealth as all black and Latino folks in this country combined. Now, no one in their right mind is going to suggest that there are 400 white people that have worked that much harder than all black Americans and 1,000 that have worked that much harder than all black and Latino folks. And yet, if that's not the explanation, what is? Well, this inertia, this ability to rack up advantages. It's like an 8-lap race. I've got a 5-lap head start. Here's the deal. I'm supposed to cross the finish line first. That's how that happens, right? And in fact, if I start out with a 5-lap head start and at the end of the race, I'm only up by 4, I'm not the faster runner, right? So in fact, if any of those gaps shrink at all, it ought to tell you something. That is that some folks are actually working harder, running faster, metaphorically speaking, and still, because of inertia, lag behind. So we have to think of racism that way.
Due to inertia, due to your race and the color of your skin, you will lag behind because the system is set up for that. You can fail. And so this is why you'll see a lot of the deleting of many programs like affirmative action, which I look at affirmative action as being a temporary help. I'm not that guy that is so blind that I can't see that sometimes government can do overreach. I will say that. As a man who was a conservative man, government do too much overreach. And if the government allows you to suck on its tits, then it's going to keep pumping its tits with milk so that you can continue to suck on it so that you can feel like you are entitled to suck on the tits of the government. And the government will make more, all right, because, and it will give you the illusion that it is helping you, but in many cases it is keeping you down. Hence the many aids, public so-called aids that are happening. Again, at the time of this recording, Donald Trump's administration has killed many of the aids that the nation gives to certain organizations and D.E.I, obviously, and some of the woke platforms that are out there and some of the international aids and what have you. They killed a lot of that today. Now, it was unconstitutional for him to do it. But if he have no guardrails, he really can do whatever he can because all they need to do is, just say, well, let's write this in the thing. Let's change this. Or if it gets to the Supreme Court and if it's weighing on his side, and they'll make a ruling on his side, even if it's unconstitutional. Again, elections have consequences. But the Head Start program is something that whites have always had, especially when it comes to, their housing and where they could live and certain kind of loans that the banks would give them. And this is the way of life. This is just the way it is. So I believe that government can overreach. But my point of bringing in affirmative action is that sometimes people stay on a system too long and then they raise their children up on that system and the children think this is the way of life. It's like the public aid system, okay? The public aid system is a system that too many generations was on too long instead of teaching these generations how to come up and how to be independent and start jobs and businesses and what have you. Instead, they relied on the aid itself, and they began to have more children so they can get more aid, and that became a mentality. Then they coined the phrase project mentality. And so that has become a problem, and I do believe that the government has caused some people to not just black, but whites as well, because there are many whites, if not more. There are more whites in America, by the way. So if you hear or see a poll that there are more whites on public aid than black, it's because there are more whites, period, as far as population is concerned. But there are a lot of white people that are on public aid. And so and many times they vote and bite the hands that really feed them. Okay, so it can keep you down. So overreach and big government can be a problem. I truly agree with that. So the aid is supposed to be something that is temporary. Like this whole thing with Trump, he's freezing a lot of the things. It's not going to go on forever. It was just it's a temporary freeze. I will say it's a temporary freeze. But that temporary freeze, there is an agenda for even freezing it, with the hopes that he gets rid of it. You understand? So I believe that this affirmative action was supposed to be temporary. It's supposed to help people get to a certain place and then you can pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Mm-hmm. You understand? Public aid, which I was on, my family was on it. We was on it long enough for me to get employed and then become independent, and then we got off of public aid. All these things supposed to be temporary. But there is a phrase called collateral damage as well, where some people cannot get off the aid. They must be on it for the rest of their life due to maybe their physical issues, maybe they are so impoverished that they just can't get out. Some of them have a mental illness or what have you, so they have to rely on the public, the government, to aid them for the rest of their lives. Well, the system is set up for some people to be on it for the rest of their lives because they revert back to a child. You understand? So I'm for that. Don't ever get rid of everything, which is the whole purpose of this show. Don't get rid of everything because you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But restrict and cut certain people off because you keep coddling them, and then they raise their children to be coddled, and then I am paying for it. It's expensive, and it raises and causes people to be imbeciles as well, and constantly relying on the government for their aid, and there's no what's the word? It's called meritocracy. Meritocracy is a word that needs to be expressed and defined in our world, in our homes, and in our neighborhoods. Okay? There is a young man at my church. His name is Elder Jones. Robert Jones is an elder at my church. He and his wife, they've been members of Faith Temple for many years, at least, 25 years or so. And he was teaching Sunday school for us on Sunday mornings. Back in the late 90s, I joined Faith Temple in 98, 99, and I remember him bringing his son. His son was a young boy, and he would play the drums. And Robert played bass guitar. Josh is his son. And Josh was playing drums, and he was pretty good. He just was a big nerd. But I saw something in Josh. He was such a smart, intellectual young man, very intellectual. And years went by, and I didn't see them anymore. And I went off to South Dakota, and then I came back home, and then we were able to reconnect. I saw a video of him and his wife here. It was a documentary on his son.
50 people were shot and 6 killed. It has shaken a community already shell-shocked by gang warfare.
The neighborhood, it was notorious for the poverty, the violence. They didn't have the freedom to just go outside and play, run up and down the street without somebody driving by and getting caught in the crossfire of feuding factions of gangs.
We couldn't afford to let them go out, we just couldn't risk it. And everything we did, we kind of created the space around them.
Sounds that I remember from my childhood.
This is Josh giving a documentary on his life. Josh became one of the great percussionists in the orchestra music that as far as an African American is concerned, and he really climbed that ladder, I believe, out of Kansas City. And somebody sent me a video of a woman saying that there seems to be a problem because he was facing tenure, yet he was denied. Here's one of the videos here.
Kansas City Symphony percussionist was on track to become the first black musician in the orchestra's 40-year history to earn tenure. But why is he no longer playing with them? Earlier this year, Josh Jones, a rising star in the classical sphere, was denied tenure, despite performing at an exceptional level and earning a reputation as one of the nation's leading young talents. This left audiences and colleagues alike asking why. According to Kansas City Symphony CEO Danny Beckley, the principal percussionist role is a leadership position, requiring communication, organization, and advanced planning. When denied tenure, the explanation Jones was given was that he did not adequately meet these standards. However, most of those who know Josh personally and have worked with him would disagree with this. Many would argue that Josh exceeded the standard for artistic professionalism. Let's make believe for a moment that he didn't. Why weren't these concerns addressed during his tenure review or feedback sessions? Why didn't anyone communicate these concerns with Jones until the final decision was made? Isn't that the point of such evaluations? To identify areas for growth, provide provide opportunities to improve? This raises a bigger question. Is this decision truly about leadership? Or is the Kansas City Symphony simply not ready to offer a black musician tenure? Despite the heartbreak and disappointment this decision caused to Jones, his career has been thriving. Since being denied tenure and leaving the Kansas City Symphony, he's won a position as principal percussionist with the Grant Park Orchestra, performed as a soloist at Carnegie Hall with Sphinx Virtuosi, and has presented at a number of prestigious conferences, including the Percussive Arts Society International Convention. Jones's journey is remarkable, especially in an industry where black musicians are severely underrepresented. Josh succeeded in a notoriously competitive space and earned his place despite all odds. So what do you think about all this? How can orchestras make their tenure process more transparent and equitable? Was their final decision fair? Let's talk about it.
And this kind of story is going around the country based off of, well, a person is capable, based off of meritocracy. He is capable of doing the job better than anybody among his peerhood, but because he was born of a certain hue, he all of a sudden is not qualified, and there goes a lot of the dog whistles and certain terminologies that are used to push him out. So hence, we do have programs of D.E.I. and the educational system put in place, the corporations put in place, this affirmative action, and there are other organizations that you could not deny a person renting your home based off of their race as well. What is that organization? A government department. All those things are put in place. I worked for a construction company where it was an African American construction company. I was the accountant there, and I had to every week fill out what was called a utilization report. And what is that? This utilization report told the government that we were hiring, even though we were a black construction company, we had to hire blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians, on and on. Even though we were a black construction company, the EEOC, thank you. We had to hire them so that the government can see that you are doing proper hiring so that we can spread the wealth. Well, Chicago is a very racist, very segregated city. For people who don't live here, I need you to know is extremely, probably the number one segregated city in the country. And when it comes to constructions, Chicago do have about 2 seasons. That's winter and construction. That is the running joke here in Chicago. 2 seasons. And the construction companies are always working on the streets. They will fix a nice mile road, and then 2 years later they're going back to tear it back up to refix it. And they'll be back again. Why? Because, I think the construction companies are in cahoots with the cities to keep working. Well, the problem has always been in Chicago the unfair practice of only giving contracts to white construction companies. Because y'all need to know that federal contracts is where wealth is made. If you don't know that, now you know. Wealth is made through federal contracts. And this is why many of the white construction companies are so wealthy, and many of the white corporations who can get a federal contract are so wealthy, and the blacks do suffer because of the lack of getting federal contracts. Okay? So in Chicago, it was difficult to see a black construction company working on streets and sand and buildings and expressway, construction, even demolition. It was difficult to see it. So the city had to crack down through the urban leagues and all these other corporations, the NAACP, to say, hey, you all, how dare you keep doing this to black people? And so they began to give us a small percentage to black contracts. So when I was working for the construction company, they came out with a utilization report that all construction companies had to fill out so that you could have enough Hispanics working for the corporation, for the construction company. And they didn't have to be carpenters per se. They could just held signs. They could have been sweepers, whatever. But they had to be working there, and they had to have so many hours working at that corporation. All right. So what is this D.E.I? I think everybody know. Embracing the differences everyone brings to the table. That's the D. Equity is treating everyone fairly, and then I, inclusion, is respecting everyone's voice and creating a culture in which people from all backgrounds feel encouraged. Okay. When did the workplace start embracing it? All right. Well, it's going back to George Floyd, but it goes back much earlier than that. The origins of D.I. programs go back to the civil rights movement, which we did play a little taste of that, which played a pivotal role in accelerating efforts to create more diversity. All right, 1964, and here is the EEOC. All right, the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act established the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and it goes on. Okay, so it goes back to Johnson. Johnson, man, he made a big impact on this. And then in the 60s and 70s, employees began filing discrimination lawsuits with the EEOC, and many companies started incorporating diversity into their business strategies by providing diversity training and went on and on. The efforts emerged around the time of affirmative action began by executive order. Now, that's John F. Kennedy's thing, affirmative action. Although the concept may be similar, seems similar, affirmative action is different from DEI as it requires federal contracts by executive order to treat applicants and employees equally based on race, color, religion, and sex. As y'all understand, DEI is something is almost volunteer, and that's why many Target and Walgreens or Walmart, what have you, they're getting rid of the DEI because it's not something that is an executive order, a federal contract, and blah, blah, blah. So that's why it's different than affirmative action. That's why the Supreme Court had to get involved with affirmative action, getting rid of that. Colleges and universities also use affirmative action to boost enrollment of students of color and at majority white schools, but the Supreme Court gutted it, as y'all know. Some diversity efforts lost momentum after GOP President Ronald Reagan in the 80s backed corporate deregulation policies. Certain companies should address discrimination internally. All right, there's a long history. Okay, it tells you what does it look like at your job. 61% of U.S. adults said their workplace had policies focusing on fairness, hiring, promoting, or pay. All right. Okay. What are the critics saying? Become a social and political lightning rod for lawmakers. There are not neutral programs to increase demographic diversity. They are political programs that use taxpayer resources to advance a specific partisan orthodoxy. All right. Anti-American, they're saying. The words sound nice, but it is nothing more than an affirmative action and racial preference by a different name, a system that features racial head counts and arbitrary assigned roles of oppression and oppressed groups in America. Williams said in an email, if we continue to do democracy this way, it will only end in the acrimony, strife, resentment, American collapse. It goes on and on, you all, on and on. And it's deep. And it's not going away, although, the government can move away from certain things. But listen, there's always going to be a back push by the public. And there's always going to be a back push by the opposing party as well. Here's my opinion on all of this. All right? I'm basically done. Here's my opinion on all of this. I start off by saying that whites were put into a Head Start program, and many of you missed it. I'm glad you caught up. That's just the way it is, you all. Deal with it and live with it. But all this stuff should really excite you all as African Americans, the ones who are African American watching me. It should excite you all to do something about it in your home. You can't change America. Not by yourself, you can't. And joining organizations like Black Lives Matter and all these other organizations and subgroups may hurt you more so than it help you. So I've taught my children how to be independent and how to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps and create and produce instead of being consumers. Whenever my daughter say, I'm going to buy, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that, I tell her, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. If you're going to buy anything, buy some stock. You don't need Nikes. You don't need a pair of Nikes for what? So you can look cute and be like your girlfriends? Just buy the stock. Be the producer. Stop being the consumer, because you're going to consume yourself into poverty. They want you to consume. Every time you turn on a commercial, you're constantly being, what's that word? Where subliminal effects. You're being subliminally affected by these commercials to buy something. As soon as you go on Amazon, you're going to buy something. Temu, you're always in the spirit of buying something. You are a consumer. So the way to get yourself out of that system and that spirit of consuming so much is to turn some things off and produce. Because there are a lot of people out there who want to buy what you got. I need y'all to understand that. You people who are watching me, whatever your gift is, whatever your talent is, somebody is willing to offer you a lot of money for it. Ask me how I know. I don't care what you do. Somebody wants to pay you for it. In the finance room, I have several rooms. Why? Because I'm made up of several sirs. Some people come here to hear me play the piano. There's a room for that. Some people come here to hear me talk about finances. You know, there's a room for that. A whole lot of people come here to hear me talk about the Bible. There's a room for that. Do you understand? They want to hear about my family. There's a room for that. There's a family room. There's a room. There's a room. There's a room. All right? And if you want to know more about my writing ability, go to Amazon. My books are over there. All right? There are people out there who want to pay you to see you do what you do. So I never have to rely on the government for anything. Unless some kind of thing happened where a bad weather event happened where I may need to pull from FEMA or the Red Cross or something, God forbid. Other than some type of catastrophe that may happen. And even in catastrophes, I have put enough money away so that I can pull myself out of problems. You need to know that. So whatever I buy, I secure it and I insure it, and I don't rely on the insurance 100%. I put money away because I don't always want to lean on State Farm. Because if I lean on State Farm got me by the kahunas. And they'll say, we either going to raise your rates or we're going to drop you. I don't want nobody to have that much power over me. Anybody understanding what I'm saying here? You never want anybody to have that much power over you where they can just snatch your whole life from up under you. So we thank God for affirmative action. We thank God for DEI because it helps somebody. And for those of you who are saying it ain't helping, well, it's not helping you because you don't need it. It's not for you. But somebody's out there who needs DEI right now because they are qualified based off of meritocracy. They are qualified for, and they're more qualified than anybody on that job, but they can't get the job because they are black or they are Hispanic. You understand? And in some cases, they're Asian. It depends on the situation because Asians have benefited from affirmative action, and white women has especially benefited from affirmative action in some DEI situations because they know how to spin it. So it may not benefit you right now, but you got to look at the other people and whom need the help. So you can't be killing stuff and say, you know, go ahead, kill it because I'm good now. You're acting like those Italians, Germans, Polish, those poor people who come over there on Ellis Island. They come over there into New York. They went over there. They started living in the trifecta. They came here in Chicago and Bronzeville and what have you. They spread out throughout these northern towns and cities and what have you. And they were white, poor, and they were running from famine, and they were running from disease, and they were running from persecution. They came over here to find a better life, and they did that. Once they got over here, started having children, and now we're living with their posterity, and the posterity looking at you like, hey, we in now, so you all, too late for you. But at one time, their parents were considered outcasts and the worst of the worst and living in slums. Black people did not create the ghetto or the slums. The Polish and the Germans created that. Black people didn't create the slums. Black people lived in the South. And when they came up to the North, they moved into an already created slum that was created by the Italians and the Polish. And then over time, because of the skin color of those people, they became white. They weren't white before. They became white. So now, since they transformed over to whiteness, they had a leg up. And they looked down on us who were living in the neighborhoods in whom they themselves polluted. We had nowhere else to go when we came north. We had to move into those areas. Do you understand? So you got to know the history or you are doomed to repeat it. You've been told a lie. So what are you going to do about it? Stop being a consumer. And you're worried about government programs or what have you, but you need to be worried about your own house. You need to be worried about how can I now train some of you are old enough, now you got grandchildren, how can I train my grandchildren, raise them up to be independent so they don't be consumers and to put their monies away. We now have the advantage of investing in the market today. We couldn't do that before. It was too expensive and it was cut off from us. And then our parents wasn't raised on. They didn't know anything about investing in the market. They may have had a 401k, but that is being taken care of by the company and those who they're paying for. Okay, and so they didn't know anything about that. All they know was they had a 401k, and they might have been matching it. That's all they knew. All right, somebody else was managing it. So now we have Robinhood, we have Coinbase, man, we have Acorn. We've got all of these. We got Moo. We've got all these apps out there on our phone where we can take money from our bank account, put it into the app and fund it, and then buy any stock we want in life. We have never seen anything like that, and it's free of charge. Robinhood started that. Robinhood got rid of the fees, meaning before Robinhood, it cost you to buy stock. Before Robinhood, it cost you some money every time you wanted to buy stock. Robinhood changed all that. And then the other apps jumped in and said, okay, all these young folks are coming in here, the retailers are buying stock now. We got to do something. And then in walks the creation of cryptocurrency, and many of these young men especially have become wealthy. Wealthy. Based off of something that don't even exist. You can't hold a crypto coin in your hand. It doesn't exist. But wealth is being made because of it. So while we're crying about things that they're trying to get rid of, you need financial literacy in your home. Stop joining these organizations because you're just going to find yourself being part of a herd mentality. But you need to pull yourself up again by your own bootstraps. And there's two men that we tend to fight against each other, and that is W.E.B. Du Bois and the other one down there in Alabama who created the college, a co-creator of the college. What is his name? Not Washington. What's the other guy? Okay, we tend to fight those two guys because they had two different thoughts. And then you got the Dr. Umar, who follows the teachings of the one who wanted us to go back to Africa. What was his name? We got all these thoughts. And then there's Malcolm X, his thought. And then there's Martin Luther King, his thought. And then there's Frederick Douglass, his thought. And we're fighting over all these thoughts. Booker T, thank you. Oscar, thank you, man. Booker T. Washington. All right. So we are struggling between the thoughts. Marcus Garvey, yeah, y'all got it. We're struggling within the thoughts of these men who were brilliant, by the way. So what I've learned to do, and I'll show you all tonight in the upper room about progressive Christianity, where it has gone, and be careful because they're taking you to a certain place. So meet me tonight in the upper room, and I'm going to talk to y'all about progressive, this progressive stuff. I've learned to take the thoughts of Marcus Garvey, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, even Malcolm X. Malcolm X was absolutely brilliant. That whole Muslim thing don't bother me. It don't bother me. Islam, it don't bother me whatsoever because I know how to eat the meat and spit out the bones. But Malcolm X was an amazingly brilliant orator. All right? So is Farrakhan. Farrakhan is an amazing, brilliant orator. Very smart. Deceptive? Yes. Very smart. Okay. And then there's Martin Luther King, who I considered, one of the greatest orators of all time, of any color. One of the greatest minds. Martin Luther King was not as original as we might have thought because he did a lot of reading. All right? He did a lot of reading, and he told you who inspired him, and that's why I think out of all of the great speakers we have today, the one thing that I love about MLK is that he cites his sources, and during his famous speeches he'll tell you, and so said, and Michi said, and he'll even go to the Asian man, Gandhi. And Gandhi says, okay, he'll do all these things. He'll cite his sources. Mm-hmm. I love that. So he wasn't as original as you all think he was, but he took these other men's writings and then he made it original with that Baptist drag that he had and the way he had that vibrato in his voice. It worked. Y'all already know my thoughts on his theology and him about Jesus Christ and what have you. Y'all already know about that. That's not this show. But I'm able to take from all of these great writers, especially Booker T. Washington. Booker T is hands down. Even though most of you know his name, I still think that he's unsung. I still think that Booker T. Washington is unsung among us. And he's really dead among the millennials and Gen Zs. They have no clue who he is. We know. And James Baldwin, holy cow. If you ever get an opportunity to travel to New York and go to Harlem and just go walk up and down that Harlem Renaissance neighborhoods, it'll blow your mind, the history. James Baldwin, yes, his sexuality was not a secret. It was not a secret. But if you sit and listen and be able to, again, eat that meat and spit out the bones, you'd be surprised how much you would get from that thought of yesteryear. Yes, his readings influenced his beliefs on Christianity. Yes, because he was multiculturalist. MLK was. He was a pluralist. Thomas Sowell. Thank you, TT. Thomas Sowell is a living legend. A lot of black people don't like him because he sounds too Republican. But Thomas Sowell have a history, and he is experienced in life and know what he's talking about, and it rubs us wrong a lot of times. His talking points rub us wrong. This is why only Fox News will have him on, and liberal media don't like to have him on because he actually tells them the truth. So I'm able to listen to these men and take here, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and then I come to a conclusion through the Holy Spirit. Can you all think of another person, male or female, because I know we're throwing out a whole bunch of men there, who you can think of who were brilliant, yet they had flaws? All these men had flaws. All of them did. They all did. But you should be able to use Holy Spirit to read their writings and listen to their oratories and be able to find the good nuggets in there to live your life and be prosperous. Mm-hmm. Yep, folks don't like the truth told out in the open. That's it, Joyce. So they don't like Thomas Sowell. But let me tell you, Thomas Sowell is one of the brilliant living legacies of our day. Nikki Giovanni? Yes, I agree. I'm still studying. Nikki. Shelby Steele. Mm-hmm. Anybody else that you all could think of? I would say Eric Dyson. He got 3 names. Something Eric Dyson. That young man blows my mind every time. Sonia Sanchez. I never heard of. Yeah, that Dyson. Brother is smart. We bump heads theologically. But you got to find that meat in there. Richard Wright. You got to find that meat. The model, come on. Thank you, brother. All right. Yes, I was getting ready to say his name, Dr. Cornel West. Don't worry about the hair. Don't worry about the big old gap tooth. All right. But Cornel West and Larry Elder. I'm telling you all. Now, they're two polar opposites. Larry Elder is a Republican, very conservative. He speaks a lot against, you all. But Larry Elder, jeez. If you can get rid of all of that political stuff, Larry Elder is brilliant. And Cornel West, they are brilliant. It's just unfortunately, and the politics didn't line up with my beliefs. All right, I listen. I get it, but Eric Dyson is brilliant. In the midst of him being a joke, I know how to look at the jokeness of a man and find that little part there that is just right for the subject matter that I'm teaching. Mm-hmm. Shirley Chisholm, come on, you can't do a show like this without Shirley. Ta-Nehisi Coates. Okay, why I know that? Oh, Ta-Nehisi Coates. Why I know the name? I know the name. Nina Simone. Yep. Even though a singer. Judge Joe Brown. I agree, Russ. If you can stop him from cussing, Judge Joe Brown. Another man who I didn't expect to get to this place. But Judge Joe's crazy. But oh boy, I agree. Barbara Jordan. Yeah. So these are good, y'all. I agree with y'all's list here, but you got to be able to find that. You got to find that voice. You got to find that voice. All right, let me go so I can go back into the Les Brown. Yes, Les Brown. Absolutely. He married the woman that I was supposed to marry, Gladys Knight. Of course, that marriage didn't work out, so I went to go find Gladys, and she was like, "Nah, I'm done with marriage." Charleston White, yep. Charleston White. Let me tell you, crazy as a bat. But if you pay close attention to Charleston White, he will blow your mind. And some of these rappers are also brilliant. What's the enemy? Something enemy with the big clock. Not Flavor Flav, but D. Something D. What's his name? Brilliant mind. Brilliant mind. I mentioned Dr. Umar. If we could just get him to get saved, Dr. Umar could change the world. We can find out what he's doing with all the money y'all raised for universities. Dr. Umar can change the world. Yeah, he Marcus Garvey all the way. But man, let me tell you, you got to listen very closely to him. Maya Angelou, absolutely. Colin Powell, yes, God rest his soul. Thank you. Chuck D was his name. Chuck D's brilliant. Colin Powell, I was so proud of him. I love Colin Powell. I didn't care he was Republican. Shoot, I was one too. KRS-One, yes, Montgomery. Some of y'all don't know these cats, especially these rappers. But man, that's why they were able to give us the music that they gave us, because they was just that brilliant. Sheila said, Dr. Umar is a scammer. That's why I say you gotta make sure you check the purse, check where the money is going before you decide to cash at Dr. Umar. You ain't gonna never see it. Heavy D, Sheila. Yes, Heavy D is one as well. He's gone too. All right. So God, we thank you for your presence, your love, your blood, and all of the people who are here. And thank you for their love and the knowledge that they're giving here. We pray for those who have been affected by the cancellations of affirmative action and D.E.I., those who really needed it to get that one leg up, to get to that position that they've been fighting so hard for. It got pulled out from them. I pray for them that they don't just think that all is lost because of some governmental program. We pray that they would understand that they should lean on you for knowledge and wisdom and the gift that you gave them from the Holy Ghost. They can get as far as they want to. The sky is the limit through the Holy Spirit. So God, we don't rely on government. We don't rely on man. And we lean not on our own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge you. You shall direct our path. Thank you for grace and mercy. Thank you that the path of this righteous man, it is ordered by the Lord. And so thank you for ordering our steps. We don't lean on government. So we thank you for the power that you've given us. So now we pray for those who are downtrodden and who have been left behind, that they get strength and find it in you and you only. And you can take them to places that they've never seen before. So we love you, God, and we give your name the praise in Jesus' name. Thank God. Amen. All right, y'all, I'm going to go do something with myself. Muhammad Ali, yes. Tupac, yes. The young people got their own intellectual, theological, philosophical personalities. These young rappers, and a lot of them are really, really, if they can stay out of trouble, stay out of, certain things, they could be the next, Booker T. Washingtons and you name it. They can, but they probably are with the young people. They already have established that. All right, see y'all in the upper room tonight in the finance room. We're late with the finance room, but we'll be there. In piano room in the morning. Patreon is on fire. And I'll see y'all tonight and in the morning. Wash, rinse, and repeat. Take care. Pray for the president of these here United States and his cabinet. And pray for our government, that if the city would just, the government that is, this nation would just lean on God, they don't have to worry about being fearful of the people inside the nation and those outside the nation. If they would just lean on God, He would take us through. So pray for these men and women in political office. Meanwhile, don't lean on them, lean on God, and you'll get through these 4 years, because 4 more years is coming. We don't know who's going to be sitting there then. It might be worse. We don't know. Pray. Meanwhile, Killer Mike. That's right, Killer Mike.
Fellas, does it seem like you can't get a good woman? Ladies, wonder why you can't keep a man? Then read The 4 Women That Men Desire, Volume 1, by Sirwalterj to figure out how to break the cycle. Go to Amazon.com to get your copy today.